that's my proposal for my comic strip. My idea is to create a short story about Rudolph's son. It will be about 15 to 20 frames long, so that my target audience will be able to keep up with it and be able to follow the story as well. I've done some research into target audiences, and I found that most people that are reading graphic narratives are under 21. However, I will be choosing my target audience as under 11, even though I haven't done any research into it. I just felt they're the ones that will be most interested in reading a graphic novel, because there's a lot of pictures as well to keep them interested, and rather than just a lot of words, they'll be able to follow the images as well. I've also looked into some secondary research, so some other people's research, and found that there's actually a lot more women reading like graphic novels and comic books opposed to men, from what they've posted themselves on Facebook and what type of groups they've liked and are interested in. So I'm also going to focus on making sure I appeal to both men and women, or boys and girls, in my comic strip, so that I'm reaching a wider audience. So, like I said, from all my research that I've done myself and collected from other people, my target audience will be children under the age of 11. It will include both boys and girls, as well as having an interesting story to keep them engaged and occupied for the whole narrative. The plot to my comic strip, because it is aimed at children 11 and under, will be based on the story of Rudolph's son, because this is a story based on something that they already know. They've already heard, they've heard Rudolph's story, and they know a lot about Christmas. It'll be something that both boys and girls will be interested in, and it'll be his struggle to keep up with his father. So obviously, Rudolph has a big legacy, and his son's got a lot to keep up to. So it will be about accepting who you are as well, which is a good moral for young children to aspire to. These are some of the characters that we involved in my story, my comic strip. So you've got the reindeer character at the top, which will be Rudolph, and some elves at the bottom, which will be mainly background characters. These are based on characters that are in other stories, but I've created them all myself, so there won't be any copyright infringement. I've used bright colours to keep them engaged and entertained, and give them features that we're able to recognise, so they'll be able to know what character's what and be able to follow the story well. The narrative that my story will follow is Freytag's Pyramid, which explains how the story will develop, starting with the exposition, which is the introduction to the story, going on to the conflict, which is the main issue that drives the main character forward. Then there's the rising action, which is what helps build up towards the climax. Then the actual climax, which is where the main event takes place in the story. So this is where the main character's at a turning point, which is where the main action happens. Then there's the falling action, which is what happens as a consequence of the climax. So what the main character did in the last couple of frames, we'll now see consequences to that. Then the resolution, which is the end of the story. And then there's also the denouement, which is often thought as the opposite of the exposition. So it's like the ending to the story, so it helps trail off towards the end, tying any loose ends. And then while I was looking at producing my own comic, I've also looked at the production process, so what has to happen in order to create one. It starts at the beginning with an idea or concept that somebody comes up with, so this is the main idea for the comic, what it's all going to be based on in the end. And then comes the story, so this is where the writers will come in. They'll write what's going to happen, so you know what happens in the beginning, middle and the end. Then there's the penciler, who will do the first drawings for the comic. So this is the person that sets the design for the whole comic. So it's their designs that we throw out. They're done in pencil so that they can change with the story and adapt as anything changes. The next part is the inking. So this is where someone will go over the pencil drawings in a pen. They do this because it's easier to pick up rather than pencils. It's easier for the machines to pick up to be able to put them onto the computers. And it also helps to give an idea of shading and light and dark. The next part is the colorist, who adds all the colour to the comic. So this is normally done on a computer. They've taken the images that have been drawn and they're just adding depth, colour to make them more engaging and interesting. Although some comic books do choose to omit this stage in favour of a different design choice. And then the next step is the lettering. So this is where all the words and speech bubbles and captions are added to help move the story along in parts that maybe isn't as obvious as for just the text, and to add extra meaning and further details to the plot as well. The next stage is the editorial. So this is just where the editor makes sure that everything's running smoothly, everything's on schedule, and this is where they pick up any final mistakes that might have been made, and just to make sure the best comics going out to the public. The next stage is printing and publishing. So this is when the comic books are actually produced. So it goes through an assembly line of pages and making sure it all looks exactly the same. Then there's the marketing, where the word gets out about the comic book so that people know what they're looking for, to build up hype for the comic so that lots of people will end up buying them. And then the final stage is distribution, where the comics are sent out to the public so people can buy them and sell them, and the creators can get lots of money for them. Then I've also looked into different laws that might affect me while creating my comic. One of them is the Copyright and Patents Act, which means that any work that I produce or somebody else produces cannot be copied by somebody else. So I've created all of my own work for this, so that I cannot be, so I cannot have copied anything, and I've made sure that everything that I've done into my plot, into the story, will not be infringing on anybody else's copyrights. And my whole budget for this production includes costs for pens, pencils, paper, ink, for printers, a scanner, Photoshop computers, so I can do all this together. In total that comes to £369.73. Although my total budget is £450 to accommodate anything else that might need more money towards it as well.